Good afternoon and welcome to the January 29th meeting of the Columbia Rotary Club. As you can see, our piano is empty. Rusty is not here today and Audrey is sick with something happening, so y'all don't want to hear me sing. I promise you that. So we're all going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. All right, I'm going to ask Past President John Bacon to come up and lead us in our invocation.
Good morning, or afternoon, I guess now. Please join me in prayer, if you would. Been a long time since I've had to wrestle with that. Is there a secret to this thing now? All right. Thank you for your patience. Dear Heavenly Father, you have blessed us beyond our wildest dreams so that we might be a blessing to others. You have brought us together as Rotarians so that we might have the opportunity to be intentional in our service to your children who are in need. Yes, service to your children right here in Columbia, and through Rotary, service to those in desperate need around the world. You have given us the capacity to help others in a meaningful way, and now we humbly ask that you give us the determination and the guidance to serve greatly. We are thankful for the many blessings in our lives and for the opportunity to bring glory to you through our service. These things we pray in your name. Amen.
So I got a little pressure on it before you started out. Looking forward to talking.
All right, this thing really, I think, is broken. Don't touch the microphone, FYI, everybody who comes up here. All right. We've got Don Mobley's going to come up, and he's going to be visiting Rotarians and guests.
Good afternoon, I'm Don Mobley from Scott Company. We have one visitor today, Joel Collins with the Lake Murray, Do we have any guests today? Any guests? None? All right, y'all have a great afternoon, great lunch.
Okay, we're going, a couple of announcements before I get to my next item. Cart buckets are on the table. Everybody please pull up your cart buckets. Dig into your purses, dig into your wallets, put some money in there, and let's fill those buckets up. Also, announcement, I made it last week, but I'm going to talk about this every single week until y'all get sick of me hearing it and you write checks for it. Our golf tournament. We're going to have our golf tournament on April 23rd at the Windermere Club, and please put it on your calendars, and I'll talk about it every single week between now and then. So with that, I'm going to ask Kay Shaw to come up here. She's on our scholarship committee, and she's going to give us an update about the scholarship that we give out every year.
It's fine. Good. Every quarter of the year, you receive in your invoice an opportunity to give to the scholarship fund. We know that when you do this, you are investing in a high school senior that is living in Richland School District 1. In 2017, the decision was made to reduce our commitment from 2 $20,000 scholarships to 1 $20,000 scholarship. The students all go through a very rigorous screening and interview process, and eligible students will come from Richland School District 1, one of the 7 high schools in Richland 1, or from Richland 1 Middle College, Hammond, Heathwood Hall, Ben Lippin, or they could be a home school student. We partner in the screening and interview process with the Capital Rotary Club, who also gives one $20,000 scholarship. I would like for the members of our scholarship committee to stand. If you have questions, please ask one of the following scholarship committee members. Our co-chair, Louisa Campbell. Bob Diggle is here today, but he's out at the, and Louisa's just coming in the back. Bob Diggle is on the welcome desk. Reva Harris, Catherine Kennedy, Dr. Leo Richardson, Alan Robertson, and myself. This is your scholarship interview team. There's not a one of us who has gone through this process that hasn't come out with a renewed confidence in our young people, and we're very proud that the donations to the scholarship fund from Columbia Rotary is indeed changing lives. We see that, we feel that in every interview that we do. And we do have very, very deserving young people in Richland School District 1. The scholarship committee, along with the club's leadership team, are working to bring more visibility to our past recipients by having them share their progress and the challenges as they work through college and working to coming into careers. Our goal is to bring these past recipients to you so that you can hear firsthand how your college and their college and career has been impacted by their scholarship they received from your giving. Another goal is for our scholarship winners to be more involved in our club. We want them to be involved in service projects. We want them to understand Rotary International, in particular, Columbia Rotary Club. So you're going to see these young people much more often at our club and our club meetings, club activities. I wanted to bring you up to date on the students that we are currently sending $5,000 a year to. Xavier Douglas is a third-year student at USC. April McDaniel is a student at Clemson University. Jay Pugh is at College of Charleston. Caitlin Vance is at Winthrop, and last year's winner, whom you met last May, Christopher Kershaw, is a young man who is going into pharmacy at USC. Every one of these students has over a 3.0 GPA, so they've done really, really well. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer those, or just encourage you to check that box and give to the scholarship fund as you are able. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. You guys are doing really good work. All right, we're going to move on to Discover Rotary, and we've got Billy Canty here to say hello to all of us today.
The microphone's about the right height for me. So, hello everyone. My name is Billy Canty. I've been in Rotary for almost 10 years now here. And just to give you a little bit about me, when I grew up in Columbia, I was born in 1969, so I'm 48 years old. For those who can't figure it out that quick. But I grew up here, went to Heathwood Hall got through high school. Then went to Davidson College for college, and then came back to Columbia and went to USC Law School. In law school, I met my wife, Nikki. We've been married for 17 years. Got 2 boys, William and John Graham, who are 16 and 14, and a dog. And then, so when I got done with law school, worked for a little bit and clerked for a year. And then really having 2 lawyers in the family is probably too many. So I went out and opened, for those of you who remember, opened John Paul's Armadillo Oil Company down on Gervais Street, or Assembly Street, Assembly and Gervais. And we ran that, I ran it for almost 7 years. And then when we got done with that, I went to work for my family company, which is Canteen Company, which is where I am now. We do residential property management in Columbia and some consulting. So we do rental houses, apartments, duplexes. So you might see some signs around town. Hopefully the signs are coming out of the yards because we're getting things rented as opposed to so that's what I do. My wife still practices. She does employment law in Columbia, Fisher and Phillips. My hobbies are just playing, doing stuff with my boys. We play a little bit of golf, and I do like to play in the Rotary tournament. And those who play with me, I'm not real good, but I do enjoy it. Like to hunt, like to fish, read, and then just mess around with boys and have a good time. For Rotary, my Aunt Louisa, who is out here, got me in Rotary, and I think it's been almost 10 years I've been in here, and I've really enjoyed it. It's a great group. I mean, I do try to, when you first come in, they try to tell people to move around. I do try to move around different tables and meet different people. It's really nice. If you don't do that, please try to do it. It's good to get to meet different members, and there's a lot of people in here, so it's hard to meet everybody, but it is good to sit with people. And then one of my favorite things is doing the bell ringing when that comes up. I typically ring Mason Hardy and I ring and Randolph Shives. I try to do a couple times a year on it. But it's just nice being in here and being able to give back to Columbia. It was a great group of people. And I'm going to take questions now.
You didn't tell them that you own the fair.
Oh, yeah, I own the fair, yeah. So, I do not own the fair. The fair is
You own it.
it's a charity.
It's owned by Moffitt.
Non-profit, yeah. So it raises money to give out scholarships. Similar
What do
to
you
like
do for the
Davis.
fair?
I'm on the board for the fair, the board for the South State Fair. And I've been doing that for about 8 years now. I've been on the board. But yeah, so I get real popular in October. And I will say that my dad does tell my kids that he does own the fair. So he does not discourage them from thinking that he runs it all. So, but I think that's about all. Any other questions?
Own the fair. Good. All right. We have, before we get to health and happiness, we have a new member induction today, and this is a kind of a special induction for me because this gentleman who's coming into our club has my old job at free times, and he's doing a fantastic job. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Past President Howell.
Thank you, Carrie. I'd like to introduce you to Chase Heatherly. He is the publisher of the Free Times and also the Spurs and Feathers, both under his leadership. He is a previous Rotarian in Anderson for 2.5 years. Told me he had been involved in development, some other things, and Carrie's salivating up here to get him on our leadership team. He lives on Main Street. He's about 2 blocks from his office down there. He's single. He's a member of New Spring Church. He's been here about a year. He wanted to get back. He had worked for the Anderson paper, Greenville and Asheville for the Gannett Company, but wanted to get back into Columbia because he likes it a lot. We like to hear that of people around South Carolina moving to Columbia because they like it. He went to Anderson University, so he's not a Gamecock, so we really like bringing anybody from up there down to Columbia. His interests are in history and the arts. He also likes to play racquetball. If there are any racquetball players out there that want to take him up on that, look him up for that. Chase, that is all I wrote down for you, and I think it's plenty. But if you would turn, of course, Meredith is here standing in for Matt Kennel, who was his sponsor into the club. But if y'all could turn for just a moment, and I'll give you a little bit of a charge, and Carrie will give you a pin that Meredith will put on you. Our club has been around for over 100 years. We had our 100-year anniversary last year. It has been a very strong community service organization for a lot of years. We're thankful that you're here, that you're interested in community service. Anybody here will be helpful to you, move around, meet some new people. You know, Jimmy Derrick always has something, you know, interesting to tell you, so, you know, make sure you meet Jimmy at some point. And otherwise, we'll have a fireside chat at some point soon, Carrie, I take it. And we're very grateful to have you in the Rotary Club. Welcome very much.
All right, without further ado, we have Libby coming up for Health and Happiness, or at least she was here.
I'm here.
Oh, there she is. So Libby's probably going to say this 400 times in the next 5 minutes, but did y'all know that she retires on Wednesday?
2.5 days.
It's 2.5 days. We've gone from 1,000 or 1,100 days down to 2.5 days. And the Columbia Star just wrote an article about her and her retirement, and she said she's going to do absolutely nothing when she finishes, and I'm going to call, that I don't believe you. I think you'll have plenty to do. All right, so Miss Libby, go.
Thank you, President Carey. The good news is, this is the last time you will have to hear me say 2.5 days. And I know that you all are sick of this, because I started at like 1187. 2.5 days. Next Monday, you won't hear this anymore. It'll be over. It's all news then. And I was asked to do Health and Happiness, and no one seems to have much today. Everyone seems to be happy and healthy. That's good news all around, right? I did want to tell you that I did see Jack Van Loan. You know, Jack Van Loan is a member of this club who's near and dear to me. Jack brought me into Rotary. I saw him Thursday night. He looked good. I saw he and his wife. He looked good. He acted like he felt good, and all is good with him. So that's my personal report on Jack Van Loan. So, and so many people said they don't have the flu. Well, I guess that is news. I mean, because so many people do have. But it is a good crowd here. So. I wanted to, you know, you can always count on Jimmy Derrick for when you go to Health and Happiness. He's going to give you something, right? Not that he's self-serving by any means, but on Saturday, Jimmy will be doing an auction for Hammond School at the State Museum. And then on February the 9th, he will be doing another auction for St. Peter's School here at Sewell's. And also, Mark Sullivan did share that his house has become pink. And having 3 boys, is it Mark? Mark and his wife now have a 4-week-old Elizabeth Lane Sullivan, and brothers are delighted to help with her. I told Mark, this poor child, she will never be able to do anything for herself. Being the only girl, the youngest of, and the 3 brothers and the parents, she's gone. I mean, we can just write her off immediately because she will be so spoiled. But we look forward to seeing her in years to come in all of her pinkness. And in the spirit of February coming up, Heart Month, Love Month, and all that, so I wanted to tell you a story about this guy, Bill, walks into the post office. And he's standing in line, as you have to do if you're doing some sort of transaction at the post office, for the most part. And he sees a guy over in the corner, and this guy has tons of pink envelopes. And he just stands there and watches this guy, and he keeps putting stamps on. He's working on all these envelopes. And he thought, well, that's odd. You know, for Valentine's, usually you have 1. Some of you may have 2 or 3, but usually, you know, it's just 1. So this really got the better of him, and when he finally got finished with his transaction, the guy is still over in the corner with his envelopes, and he walked up to him and he said, you know, I'm not really trying to get into your business, but this has fascinated me, why you're standing here, why you're doing all these envelopes, how you have so many. And the guy looks at him and kind of smiles and says, yes, I send about 500 a year. And the only thing I put on the inside is guess who? Well, Bill is even more troubled by that, because if you're going to bother to send all those, why would you put your name? I mean, wouldn't you want them to know who they're from? So Bill says, okay, so that's even more puzzling. Now I have to ask you, why do you do this? He said, oh, it's simple. I put guess who because I'm a divorce attorney. I got the biggest kick out of that when I heard it. Some of you did, some of you didn't, but that's okay. That's okay. And I have another little story for you that an older couple, I'm retiring, so probably my age, was sitting on the front porch rocking. And she sat there and she rocked and she rocked, and she says to her husband, you were just not romantic at all. You never do anything romantic. You never say anything. We don't do anything. She went on and on and on. So the guy's sitting there and he's just rocking. He says, we've been married 45 years. And when we got married, I told you I loved you. If I change my mind, I will let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Libby. Best of luck with your retirement. We will be glad to not have to hear that next Monday. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our speaker. I'm going to ask Past President Bob Crutchfield to come up here and introduce.
You're in for a real treat today. One of the great advantages of being a big club is you can get great speakers, and we certainly have that for you today. Let me tell you the required part, and then I'll just tell you a couple of things I've managed to beat out of him. And a lot of you know Bill McCrary because Bill's a former member of this club. The official part, he's a critically acclaimed coach and trainer. He founded Strategic Partners in 1997 after a 20-year corporate career with Fortune 500 companies, Georgia Pacific and Wythe Labs. He's an internationally known speaker, and he's spoken to destinations as far away as Dubai. He's also a Vistage international speaker. Strategic Partner is an authorized licensee of Sandler Training, which is what I first thought of, I think, when I met Bill. And Sandler was recently named the #1 training company in America by Entrepreneur Magazine. Sandler Training is a world leader in sales and sales management training with a network of 275 Sandler training centers in 31 countries around the world. And think about this. In 2009, he was awarded the David H. Sandler Award by Sandler Training. This award is the organization's highest honor and given to one person annually. Bear in mind now, this is a company in 35 different countries. I think you ought to give him a round of applause just for that. Okay, and also, when a number of strategic partner clients have been recognized as one of the magazine's fastest growing companies in America, particularly in Jim Collins' Good to Great and Orella Davis's list of South Carolina's fastest growing companies. It's funny, y'all know I can't hear, but y'all know I can't see. I left my glasses in the car, so I kind of struggle through some of that. But let me just tell you, I had to pull a couple of things out.
Turn it off.
Is that better?
No.
Is that better? Okay, anyway, I had to really kind of call Bill and pick stuff out, and I finally said, are you from around here? And I asked him, did you go to high school here? And I called him back and said, did you go to college here? And he said, well, I went to Clemson. Count, I guess, or something like that. But anyway, Bill is, when I say is he from around here, his family has been in South Carolina since 1752. His dad was in the Air Force. He was the Air Force brat. He was born at Shaw Air Force Base, I believe he told me. And I mentioned also that he's a former member of this club. Well, and I asked him, I said, why'd you drop out? He said, it's the worst mistake I ever made. So I want y'all to know, I told him, we can correct that problem. Now, you had a great speaker last week in Tom Ledbetter. These guys are both powerful, enthusiastic go-getters. He talked about entrepreneurism. You're here today about training. Bill, have a nice round of applause for Bill McCrary.
Wow, what a setup. How do I meet that expectation? Unbelievable. It's great to be here today. I was a member of this club for probably a decade, but that was 10 years ago. And Bob, how long have you been a member of this club?
Quite a while.
Yeah, 32 years.
Sure. And he told me that Tom Ledbetter spoke last week about entrepreneurship, so I have a very quick entrepreneurship story. based on this year. In fact, you learned that June of this year was 20 years in this business. And I'm thinking, how did that happen? But 20 years ago, I went momentarily insane and left a perfectly good company, a Fortune 100 company, moved back to Columbia, to Lake Murray, to double my house payment with 2 kids ready for college, and went to 0 income and no clients. Right? 20 years later, now that I've succeeded, some people might say I'm a smart guy. Had I failed, I would have been called what? A fool. So great to be back here. It's been a while since I've been in this room. And you know, I remember this was kind of a suit crowd, so I wore the suit for you guys. But I have a little bit of a dilemma. You know, if you ask my friends, what does Bill do? I think most of them say, I'm not sure. And I would say to that, it depends on what you do. I have a group of clients that might be professionals, entrepreneurs, attorneys, and they would say I do business development, right? I have a group of clients that might be large companies with a VP of sales or a sales manager. They would say I do Salesforce development, right? You're hiring, holding people accountable, coaching people. And then there's a group of clients here in Columbia. Now my business has changed dramatically in 20 years. In fact, 48% of my business is virtual. I mean, who would have guessed? 48% of my business is virtual training, WebEx interactive classroom. Bill is standing in front of a monitor. Imagine that. If anybody had told me, Lanier, that I'd be doing that a few years ago, right? But really appreciate the chance to be here today. In fact, here's what I know, that all of you are professionals. You're all very good at what you do. And odds are, any one of you could stand up here and say everything I'm about to say. But I appreciate the effort. Now also, I'm going to do a drawing at the end of this talk today on a book that's come out from Sandler. Okay, and I'm going to give 3 of these away. So if you'd like to participate, have a business card ready. I'll pass some baskets around, and you'll have an opportunity to draw from the book. Okay, with that in mind, I've picked a couple of these principles that I'd like to talk about today. And Don, I kept a little bit of a cheat sheet here to make sure I don't get off track, because are you guys aware of the clock? Some of you guys aren't aware of the clock. There's a lot of pressure when you're up here and there's the clock. So I'll be watching the clock, Carrie, okay? All right. A couple of principles, and some of them are a bit hard to hear because I'm in this nebulous profession that most people don't really understand, that business of sales. And you might say, well, Bill, I'm not in sales. Well, are you sure? Because here I would say that getting your kids to pick their socks up off the floor is a sale. I mean, whether or not your son actually gets his Eagle Scout project, gets his Eagle Award and finishes his Eagle project, is a sale. So everything is a sale. But a couple of principles that I want to cover here today, straight out of the book. Number 1 is that prospects aren't looking for more friends. You got 2 kinds of people out there. One are prospective clients. The others are clients, right? There's a difference there. And I hear people say, you know, I'm building relationships. You know, a blog came out from Harvard Business Review just a couple of weeks ago, and the title was that relationship building is dead. And here was the point it made. It said in these days of consolidations and mergers, people don't have time for salespeople. Have you noticed the art of joke telling? I mean, it used to be, there were days when people would say, wow, I wish a sales guy would come by and tell me a joke. Well, you don't have that anymore. In fact, the idea of building a relationship, most sales occur because of an event. I mean, take a moment. Let's suppose you own a business, your computers crash. When do you need a solution? Right? I mean, do you have time to go out and build a relationship with that person? Now, please don't misunderstand, but if your business is that of relationship building, then it's more marketing than it is sales, right? How do you make it happen quickly, professionally, when those things happen that are many times timed by an event? Number 2, people don't trust salespeople. People don't trust salespeople. We're driving, I live on Lake Murray. We come up and down the interstate when we come to Columbia. The other day I passed one of the newer dealerships. It's Sunday night, 9 o'clock. The lights are on at the dealership, There are people out there looking at cars 9 o'clock on Sunday night when the place is closed. Why? Salespeople. My wife recently remodeled the house. I moved out for 3 months. Anyway, my wife is not very declarative about anything. She says, I want a new bed. You know, we're going to remodel the house. I said, okay. She said, I know what model of bed I want. I said, great. She said, I know where I want to buy this bed. And I said, perfect. We got to the showroom. She walked in the front door. She was approached by the salesperson. He said, how can I help you? And what do you think she said?
No, just looking.
I'm just looking. Not even the nicest person I know can tell the truth. You know, I just ordered a book from a guy, Daniel Pink. Don't go buy the book. A couple of books that have made a lot of sense. One was To Sell Is Human. His latest book is called When, which is timing. I think timing matters a lot. But he coined an expression in his first book, the Latin expression caveat emptor. Means what? He said the rules have changed. He said it's now caveat venditor. Right? Because guess what's going on more than ever is people and the way they handle salespeople. I mean, think about it. Take a moment. Pretend that it's, instead of being 1 o'clock on Monday, that it's noon on Saturday. Take a moment. It's noon on Saturday. You're in the kitchen. You've made no plans. The family is gone. You're there alone. You've squandered a day. And your phone rings. And it's a salesperson. And it sounds like, hi, Mr. Derrick. It's Bill McCrary with ABC Company. Salesperson has called your home. What do you say? What do you say, Jimmy?
I'm busy.
And the truth is what?
I'm not.
So why would you mislead me, Jimmy? But understand there's a cultural stigma around salespeople. I mean, you follow me here? I mean, what else do you say? He's not here. Send me some information, which really means what? You know, if I can give you some level of false hope, I'll get you off the phone. You know the situation, anybody with the post office, this thing about going postal? You know what going postal is about? Salespeople putting stuff in the mail. You got to deal with that stuff, right? Which really means what? In the South where people are nice, it means what? I'm not interested. But people don't trust salespeople. Point, how many of you know someone, maybe from college, that was possibly a fraternity brother, fraternity sister that does real estate, insurance, maybe financial. You know them, you like them, but you would never trust them through your retirement assets. So is it about like, or is it about trust? And people don't trust salespeople. So, nevertheless, a couple of rules, a couple of principles that need to be adhered to. Number 3, be disarmingly honest. Refreshingly, disarmingly honest. June 9th was my 20th year in business, and I ran commercials, radio commercials in this market for a long time. Does anybody remember the radio commercials that I ran? Yeah? You know, it's been 10 years since I've run those commercials. 10 years. Who remembers some language from the commercials? Anybody remember some of the language from the radio? Yes?
It's expensive.
Expensive. Why would I say that? It's true. Right? What, do you remember anything else?
Not for everyone?
Not for everyone. Why would I say that? Why would I say that, Al?
Because you're not.
Because it's true, right? So, you know what most people are looking for? Now listen, if I am at this point have just gone insane, dropped out of the human race, you know, essentially to start this crazy business with zero income and no clients, Bill better be getting things done. Make sense? And if I'm spending time unnecessarily under the premise that someone is qualified when they're not, whose fault is that? So I think it's nothing more than disarming honesty. Case in point, a lady that works with me up in the upstate, she's a financial advisor. She does a lot of things for clients, high net worth individuals. And she said, Bill, I've got to tell you, I'm struggling with the sales goal. And I said, well, tell me something about that. And she said, well, everyone of stature, everyone with money is already working with someone. And there's pressure when I go on the call. And the last thing I want to do is look and act like a salesperson. So she adopted language that sounds a little bit like this. Imagine you're this person. Imagine you're the client. And she's not the client, the prospect. But imagine she says, thanks for the meeting. I'm not sure I can help you. I'm not sure you need to change anything. You might not. If you don't mind, why don't we take a few minutes and talk and figure out whether or not it'll even make sense to get back together. Now, I call that nothing more than what? Disarming honesty, right? And if I can do that, by the way, one little itsy bitsy little we're not right for everybody does what to your credibility? And how credible are salespeople? So think about it. Is everyone right for you? Do you not have people? How many of you spend money on marketing? Do you get calls from people who clearly are not qualified, Jimmy?
I do.
So if that's the case, when do you want to know that?
I do.
Right? Yes, you do. I mean, because equal business stature would suggest that their time is busy just like yours. So can we effectively, by the way, when I ran those ads, what kind of calls do you think I got? Qualified calls or unqualified calls? So listen, I would say it's irresponsible to my family to make believe and meet with people that aren't the best prospects for me and an abject waste of their time. So think about it. Disarming honesty. Don't know that I can help you. May find that you're okay where you are. Which is now a really nice pressure relief valve, isn't it? And I think nothing more than disarming honesty. So let's be disarmingly honest. Next, your value proposition may be hurting you. Your value proposition may be hurting you. How many of you have hired a consultant to come in and help you with a value proposition? In fact, I'll give you a hint. It's probably on the homepage of your website. Right? And if someone were to ask, what makes you different? How would you help me? What types of things might you say? Might you say that better quality, better reputation, better experience? Take a moment. Take a moment. Pretend that you've been fired, now you're going to work for your biggest competitor. What will you say now? What do you think your competitors are saying? I mean, forget whether or not it's true, but do you think they're saying, my experience is really varied. This is my 4th career. With respect to reputation, do you think they're saying, please don't check the internet. We've really messed up some jobs. With respect to quality, do you think they're saying, you know, we got about the same stuff, same products, about the same stuff? When it comes to service, do you think they're saying, our service guy just quit, we're upside down right now, but I'll jump in and help? Instead, what are your competitors saying? And by the way, if we're all saying something that sounds somewhat the same, how in fact would that be different? Does that make sense? I think selling is in fact a collaborative process of asking insightful, provocative questions. A collaborative process of asking provocative, insightful questions. Questions that elicit what type of response from a business owner?
Yes.
Silence?
Yes.
Well, not even yes. Do you know what's a better answer?
Yes.
I don't know. Which implies what? I probably should know. What's another really good response? That's a great question. That's a great question. Let's see, they've been using your competitor for how long? 14 years. And you can ask them several questions where they say, wow, now that's a good question. You know what they're also thinking? Why didn't my current firm ask me those questions? You know, that's what attorneys do, isn't it? What's the difference between an attorney that charges $50 an hour or $500 an hour? $450. An attorney said that, by the way. I'm thinking, who's the attorney? But understand, the attorney doesn't say, let me give you a presentation, tell you how cool I am. They ask you questions, right? Good questions. You know, ideally they're qualifying questions. They're good questions that help you understand, wow, I don't know. I should have the answers to these questions. And by implication, he does, or he can help me get the answers to those questions. But it's more a collaborative collaborative process of knowing the right questions in the right order in a way that we're completely transparent. And they're figuring out something they weren't aware of until I walked in the room. Because the best sales call ought to be one where when you leave, they can say, no one understands the scope and the complexity of my situation more intimately than that person. How's that, right? A little different from a pitch, where it might have sounded like other people. Because here's the rule. If you look, act, and seem like your competitors, you're going to be treated how? All right, so another principle. In fact, a quick story to illustrate a collaborative process to help people figure out a compelling reason to change something. An absurd analogy that you can all relate to. A number of years ago, we're going to Italy. It's a bucket list trip with a group of dear friends that we've tailgated with for 25 years. Imagine this, we got 3 couples where the men and the women get along and have for 25 years. Never a coarse word, never any talk behind the scenes. We go to Italy with them, 2 weeks, right? I mean, how complicated could that get? So, as a matter of chance, just before we leave, I go into the dentist for a complete physical. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted, I gotta finish on time. Carrie's gonna be mad at me if I don't finish on time. But I go into for a routine teeth cleaning, and the dentist does the x-rays like they normally do, and he says, matter-of-factly, Bill, you've got a crack in a molar, right here on the back. It's on the hinge point. Okay, a lot of pressure on that molar. Said, you need to get that fixed. Okay, what does a crown cost? A lot, right? You got time for that just before you leave on a trip? Now, had he left it right there, what would I have done? Nothing. So he began to ask a few questions. Now he leaves the room, and he comes back, and he says, Bill, did we talk about that tooth on the back, which is nothing more than what? A question. To which I said, yeah. He said, do you remember what I told you specifically about that tooth and its location? Which is nothing more than what? A question. And he said, yeah, it's got a crack in it, the hinge point, a lot of pressure. He said, Bill, you getting ready to go on a trip with your buds? I said, yeah. How long are you going to be gone? 2 weeks. He said, Bill, what could happen to that tooth? Like a crack. He said, Bill, are they going to handle your Blue Cross in Italy? Bill, wonder what dentistry looks like in Italy. Now, he wasn't having to ask the questions at this point. I was filling in the blanks. And after a few minutes, it was like, can you work me in, please? I've got a credit card in my back pocket. I'm now willing to make the time and spend the money where a minute ago I wasn't. Now, I would say, if I don't have a dentist that's good enough to help me figure that out, where instead I might potentially ruin a bucket list trip for me and my buddies, maybe I've got the wrong dentist. Make sense? But it's a perfect situation where he knew exactly, using legitimate questions, provocative, insightful questions to help me figure out the proper course of action. And the proper course of action, if I'm not being selfish, is to do what? Before a 2-week bucket list trip with a bunch of friends. Okay. So next on the list is sometimes proposals, quotes, demonstrations become free consulting. Carrie, I visited a buddy in Atlanta recently. He's CFO of a major chamber. Okay? And he looks at some of my information. I was spending time with a client. I dropped by there. And this is the second nicest guy I know. However, he looked at information that I had and he saw the term free consulting. And unsolicited, his kind stare turned into a steely gaze where he looked like Russian mafia. And he said, I make every sales guy that comes in here free consulting. And I'm thinking, wow, what just happened? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, understand, we're a chamber of commerce, right? We don't have a lot of money to spend on that stuff. By the way, we're typically doing business with a client. We can't fire our client. His words, not mine, okay? He said, so what I'll do if we're having a problem with our technology, he said, I'll invite some highly credible companies in under the guys that need some help, want to talk to you. And what do you think they show up and do? What we do, how we do it, formalize it in a presentation, proposal, you name it. Right? And he gets what type of consultant? Now at the end of that, what do you think he says? What do we say to salespeople at the end of that meeting? I'll let you know. But we don't just say it. We say it in very nice tone. In fact, we put the eraser word in there. Here's what it sounds like. Bill, thanks for coming by. Wonderful information. I think you can really help us. You're here at exactly the right time. Wonderful ideas. Your pricing is even better. Here comes the eraser word. What's the eraser word? But. I just need a little time to digest this, show it to the board. Can you formalize this? Send me an email. We're good to go. And so what do? Now what do you think happens there? Now here's what could happen. He could say, oh, by the way, Bill, call me back on Monday. My follow-up is good, so guess what I do? Call him on Monday. Now he says, oh, Bill, looking at the proposal, it doesn't say whether or not you guys can fill in the blank. So what do? Got these guys to Yeah, Bill, we can take care of that. He says, great, call me back in a week. Click. And he got me to do a little bit more what?
Free consulting.
Thank you. Thank you. All right? No, you don't even get a thank you. You know how we learn that it's over in that scenario? How many of you have situations with salespeople with long sales cycles and abundant pipelines? Anybody? You know what that sometimes means? It's over and we just don't know it yet. Because in the South, what people don't know, who is sold above the Mason-Dixon line in the Northeast corridor? Anybody? Mike, good to see you. Usually see Mike in tailgate, a lot to it. Listen. Mike, when it's over up there, what do people say to you? When it's clearly over, what do prospects say?
Definitely say goodbye, but
Yeah.
what I found, honestly, they love that southern voice.
Oh, you bet they do.
They give you a little bit of tolerance.
But here's what they don't say, particularly in the South. Listen, I really hate to tell you this, but I got everything I need. You've been very helpful. Dinner at Bruce Chris was awesome. Okay, hope you'll come again. But I took your information, I'm going to shop it. See, they were doing business with their brother-in-law, or maybe it's a chamber member. Now here's the deal. They go back and show that guy the information. What do you think happens? Or what do you think my buddy, the CFO at the chamber in Atlanta, could do? Listen, McCrary came by the other day, good company, you know those guys? Some good ideas. I think they can really help us. And I'd like to help you keep the business, but, and now I get you to do what? Right? In that scenario, who won? Right? Prospect, 100% complete. Oh, so does it make sense when I tell you caveat venditor? Right? I mean, there's a whole group of bars to jump, particularly who's sold to state and federal, or large organizations. So if you don't have a process that helps you get past that with things like disarming honesty to get to the truth. By the way, if the truth is they're not going to change anything, when do you want to know that? Okay, very good. Last one. And this one really hit home with me. One of the things that was transformative to me was to understand that I had something called money weakness. I was raised by Depression-era parents who saved everything. Solo cups, salt packs, everything, right? And $1 is a lot of what? So how do you think I was wired? And what do you think my self-talk was? I mean, repeat after me. Here's an example of self-talk. $1 is a lot of save your money for a rainy. If you're going to get the business, you got to be low. See, our parents didn't know they were raising salespeople. So Bill had inappropriate empathy towards money. At one point, I was working for a big medical concern. We were selling a contraceptive implant called Norplant. It was soon out of existence, but was these little Scholastic capsules that you could order in the 55-gallon drum, filled full of a progestin called levonorgestrel, which you can buy in a 55-gallon drum. And I'm supposed to be selling these to doctors for $375. Did my belief system support that? So who would capitulate? I mean, so much so that I would say, you know, the price is X, but let me see what I can do, in the same sentence. And so Bill was empathetic in a way that was inappropriate. What do you think was true of my margins? And now Bill had to sell twice as much to make the same amount of money. By the way, how many of you have been strong enough to plant your feet and say, I wish we could do it for that? And they say, you can't blame me for trying. Implying that the whole thing was nothing more than what? And why do they do that? Why do prospects do that? Because it works. Makes sense? Now here's the heinous part. That we've been building a business case that we're better. And at the 11th hour, we discount. So what have we just said? And now we've created doubt at the point when we need it the least. Okay, I've got 11:23. I'd like to allow for a few questions. We're going to see that some baskets get passed around. We're going to give away 3 books. If you'd like to participate in that drawing, drop a card in the basket. Very good. Thank you, guys. And let me open up for a couple of questions, if you don't mind. You know, here's my dilemma when I do a talk like this. How many different types of people in this room, from nonprofits to businesses to sole producers to you name it? So who's got a question? Question? Yes, sir.
I don't have a question, but I've got a real life scenario. A friend of mine is a mechanical contracting company, and they were bidding on a major job, and his bid was $300,000, and the other bid was $100,000. And so the first guy got awarded the bid, but in the construction, they kept coming back to a higher bid and said, why is your bid so high? And he said, because I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, which that's the only way we're going to warrant it. So by asking the questions, he cast some doubt on the first guy.
Legitimate doubt.
Legitimate doubts as to whether they could do the job or not. He ended up getting the job at $300,000.
So what's the point of that story? You know, I just spoke to a group of construction companies, CLN, in Tampa. It's 120 construction companies. We put together data from the Mid-Atlantic using construction as an example, and asked 250 construction companies in the Mid-Atlantic a lot of questions about the way they bought. 25% admitted to regularly adding someone in the bid process who had no chance of winning. Let me repeat that. No chance of winning. Why? Why not? Right? Most people don't know how to manage that, how to navigate past that, and what happens? And now everybody's angry. And the truth is, somebody lowballed this thing, and they're going to change order their way into profitability. Right? Okay, one more question. We got the baskets coming around?
Yeah.
One more question? No? Okay, can we get somebody to come up and be our, can you get you to be our Vanna White? Draw for some books? Sure?
Go Vanna.
Okay.
A new
Very
career.
good.
A new career.
Okay, Bob, can you hold it up nice and high for us so that you can't possibly be accused of...
Mine's on top.
Bob, you better hold it for her so she can't be accused of anything less than forthright. And the first winner is...
Blake Buchanan.
All right, Blake. Congratulations. Very good. You bet. Thank you. And the next winner is...
Bob Frenchman.
Do we allow that?
Yes, it was legitimate.
Okay. And the next winner is...
Carolyn Kaysen Matthews.
Okay, very good. Okay, any additional questions? You bet. Then I'll end with a story. Let's suppose that a West Point graduate who is in the Army, is that right? Did I get that right? Has been assigned to Fort Jackson. Now, what do you know about Fort Jackson? It's a boot camp. I mean, it's fundamental stuff. It's climbing under barbed wire, being yelled at by drill sergeants. So anyway, they get this handsome young lieutenant who happens to be a West Point graduate at Fort Jackson. Now, he happens to be a tall, articulate guy, so guess what they decide to do with him? Put him in charge of GI life insurance, right? So imagine he's talking to all of the GIs in the aluminum grandstands, and how do you think he goes about that sale? Let me tell you about this company and all its benefits. And at the end he says, now guys, you're getting ready to go to Iraq, be deployed. If you'll step to the front here, we'll get you all signed up. Now how many of them came to the front and signed up? So the drill sergeant steps up and says, can I help? He says, sure. The drill sergeant says, boys, I don't know if you figured this out yet, but inside of 90 days, you're all going to be deployed, either Iraq, Afghanistan, and the odds say that about, 32% of you are going to take a roadside bomb, IED, a bullet. And here's what I can tell you factually is that if you do nothing, the federal government's going to have to send your family $600. Now, if you'll sign up for the insurance, for Lieutenant's policy here, and you take that same bullet, that same IED, now the federal government's going to have to send your family $600,000. Boys, which do you think they're going to send to the front lines first? Thank you.
I had the pleasure of auditing one of his classes out at Sandler back in September, and I met a lot of really good friends there. So Bill, thank you for giving us your time today. We appreciate you. Stephen, next week?
Next week we have Tommy Stringfellow coming. Tommy's the new president and CEO of the Bank Soup. So please come and please bring some guests.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to go ahead and finish up, and since we're not going to sing, I'm just going to go ahead and ring, and I hope everybody has a wonderful week.